Hello everybody. This is going to be a video by request on my George Harrison CD collection. If you're new to this channel, it's nothing fancy. I just pretty much show my collection, talk a little bit about it. Right now, at least for the past couple months, I've been doing these from my garage because I've got the rest of the family home all the time in the house, and so this I find is the best environment with the least interruptions. So George Harrison, maybe my favorite Beatle. I've always admired his work, not only with the Beatles, but also solo. And I don't have, at least this in terms of a separately sold CD for Wonderwall music or electronic sound. I do have those as part of the Apple Years Volume 1. I didn't even think it was called Volume 1. I think it was just the Apple Years, but it was the very first CD box set that was released a few years back. So I do have both those discs as part of that box set. But in terms of the standalone CDs, the first one I have, and what I consider to be one of the best, if not the best, Beatles solo album is All Things Must Pass. This was the original CD issue from the 1980s, and it was in the fat box format. That's what the CD looked like. Unfortunately, they did not reproduce the lyrics in this booklet. Pretty much all you get are the credits, and you also get the poster that was part of the original album packaging, and that is pretty much it. I'm not sure why they didn't go the extra mile and include the lyrics, but they did not. Second CD. And then this was the CD, it was the anniversary, which was released in 2000, the 30-year anniversary of All Things Must Pass, and this was completed under the direction of George Harrison himself, who I believe designed the artwork, which of course is a colorized version of the original album. Don't really care for the colorized version. I understand it's a little bit different. I would have rather seen a package that was a little more faithful to the original album, but what you gonna do? This is the booklet that came with it, and both the booklet and the two CD slipcases have variations on the artwork, and I believe this was George Harrison's comment on, you know, the over-materialistic, industrialized society that we live in. There's some comments, a little essay by George Harrison, some photographs from the original session, and we do have lyrics in this package, which I'm happy about. Then an alternate photograph from the album artwork, and then a picture of George from 1971. Not sure why this was included, since it was not taken during that period, but this also has 5 extra songs. There is an outtake called I Live For You, which was recorded during the sessions. There's demos for Beware of Darkness, Let It Down, What Is Life, and then there's a remix of My Sweet Lord from 2000. Not crazy about the remix, but it's okay. And then CD2 has, of course, the rest of the album. Next CD, chronologically, is the Concert for Bangladesh. This is not the original CD issue of that. This is, again, I think an anniversary edition that was released. Does have the original artwork on both the CD slipcases, although different colors. And then the booklet, which is a little more extensive than the original booklet, has some extra photographs, but then also I think is missing some photographs from the booklet that was in the original album package. When I was flipping through here the other day, I did not see, there's a famous picture of George and Bob Dylan kind of leaning in towards each other, and the photograph of Bob Dylan was used, oh, there it is. This is the picture. This side was Bob Dylan's cover for, well, he used it as a cover for his Greatest Hits Volume 2. So it actually is in here. But this book is a little bit thicker than the one that came with the original album. Also would have preferred if they had used the original album photograph rather than this picture of George, but I'm fine either way, I guess. Next studio album, Living in the Material World. This is the original CD issue. I think this is a decent album through and through. Not as great, obviously, as All Things Must Pass, but it does have Give Me Love, Give Me Peace on Earth. It's got the great song, Don't Let Me Wait Too Long, Living in the Material World. I love that song because it name checks the other Beatles. And I've made comments about that particular album and all these albums in my George vinyl video also, so try not to repeat too much. This is the Dark Horse CD. Again, the original CD issue. And then this pretty faithfully replicates what you got in the inner sleeve. This is the gatefold and the handwritten credits, I believe, which were in George's own hand. This is a Twofer. I believe this was issued in Russia because it's got some Russian-looking printing on the back there. And so this has extra texture, and it also has Gone Troppo. I believe there are other George Harrison CDs that are released in the same format, and I know the Beatles CDs, their American CDs, I believe, maybe some of their British CDs were also issued as Twofers, which sort of look the same as this one. This has the original label on here for extra texture, or reproduction I should say, and then there's a picture of George from the 80s on the inside of the CD, and then on the inside here is the photographs that were on the inner sleeve. Of course, the vinyl album was die cut, extra texture, and then you could flip it around either side and have either this photograph or this photograph showing through. And You, which was the lead-off track on this album, was actually an outtake from the All Things Must Pass sessions. So I appreciate finally getting to hear that on this album. And then George switched labels to Warner Brothers, and in honor of his 33rd birthday, released 33 1/3. He also shaved his mustache in honor of his 33rd birthday. I don't know if it was in honor of his birthday, but he did nonetheless. And he borrowed a pair of sunglasses, it looks like, from Elton John. And again, the information, the pictures that were in the gatefold and the inner sleeve, including song lyrics. And Crackerbox Palace was the big song off of here. Also, this song, which was a commentary on the legal troubles he was having with the plagiarism lawsuit over He's So Fine and My Sweet Lord. This is the self-titled George Harrison album, which contains the remake of the Beatles' White Album outtake, Not Guilty, so it's worth owning even just for that. But this is a pretty decent, if not pretty mellow, George Harrison album, if you've not heard it. And credits and song lyrics and a photo of George and Jackie Stewart. That was also in the original album packaging. And then Somewhere in England, which was 1981 if I recall correctly, and this photograph was changed at the request of the record company. Originally it was a black and white picture of George superimposed against a I think it was a topographic map of England. And also the record company made him change the song list. One of the changes that was made was George included the track All Those Years Ago, which he wrote for Ringo, but then Ringo felt uncomfortable singing it after John passed away. I'm not sure exactly what the story behind that. I know it was originally for Ringo, and then for some reason Ringo did not record it, and George either kept it for himself or Ringo encouraged George to record it with Ringo on drums, and then Paul and Linda were on backing vocals. Got credits and a picture of George, which looks like he is in the middle of acupuncture. So Gone Troppo was part of my Twofer. I don't have a standalone CD for that. So the next one is Cloud 9, George's comeback album, produced by Jeff Lynne, an amazing album all the way through. Of course, it had the hit, which I didn't realize at the time, but it was actually a cover, Got My Mind Set on You. It's got the excellent When We Was Fab, and of course Devil's Radio, which I think was another single off of here. Features Eric Clapton and Elton John, as well as Jeff Lynne. And we have the first Traveling Wilburys album. I believe this is the only CD release, although they did do an anniversary edition, which I think had the third Traveling Wilburys album on it as well. Got photographs, a little bit of a history on the fictional Wilbury brothers, but no song lyrics. This is volume 3, which is not a booklet. It actually opens up, and it's got the dance moves for the song, the Wilbury Twist. Picture of the 4 remaining Wilburys since Roy Orbison passed away, since the recording of their first album. Kind of disappointed they never recorded another Traveling Wilburys album before Tom Petty passed away, but this is the Live in Japan double CD. Of course, it was a concert that he did with Eric Clapton, so Eric Clapton plays on here. Not too much other than photographs and a few credits in this booklet. I don't know if you can really see it. It's sort of an outline of George. It's this picture here on the cover. You can see it kind of up close, but I understand in this video it just looks black. And then the last CD I have to show is his final studio album. It was released posthumously. Unfortunately, George passed away before it could see release, and so Danny Harrison and Jeff Lynne finished it up. It's an excellent album.